Pay yourself first, but then what? Stay tuned to learn about the 4 categories for managing your money. Hello, and welcome to Headlines in Fine Print, brought to you by Piedmont Advantage Credit Union. I'm Dion Williams, President and CEO of the credit union. On today's episode, we're going to go further down the path of paying yourself first. Prioritize setting aside money for your goals now and into the future. Think about it as ordering a pizza and you pull out a slice for yourself for later. So the same concept with money. You're giving money a purpose and an order. So as we go through these categories, you'll find that one of the categories needs to go last, and the other 3 you can prioritize as you wish. But the last category is the one that can really get you if you don't plan accordingly. So let's jump right into those 4 categories. First is spend, and this is the one that I'm saying in the order, do it last. We're going to talk about it first, but order it last. And I think this speaks for itself. So in terms of spending, spend wisely. So the problem is a lot of folks think, well, I'm going to do these other things with money with what's left over. And that's the challenge. We talked about this in the last episode, that rarely is something going to be left over because life happens. A couple of examples, your air conditioning could go out. You could have an emergency vet bill. You could have a tire that gets a nail in it. You could have a cracked windshield. All of those are things that are unintended emergencies that come up. And so those are the things that keep you from saving or doing other things with the money that's left over. So spending, in terms of spend wisely, some categories that we see folks struggle with, of course, eating out, going crazy on their either cable subscription or their streaming services. There's always something to spend money on, and we talked about in the last episode how expensive things are right now. Whether you go to the grocery store or the gas pump, the cost of living is higher, so we do have to be very thoughtful and purposeful of how we spend our money. And again, if you're a younger person watching this show, and even if you're not working, because I was talking to a group of high school students earlier today, it could be allowance, it could be money for a gift for graduation or for a holiday. So it's not just your paycheck, but any source of income that comes in, have that same purpose of, okay, I know I'm going to spend some money, but I'm going to give my money another job before I spend it to make sure those categories are covered. So let's jump right into the next category, and that would be saving. So saving, I think, in terms of short-term goals, it could be a little bit further out for some goals, but think about the rainy day fund, that when those unintended emergencies happen, you need a couple of new tires for your car, or you have to make an unplanned doctor visit, those type things. Those savings are very important. And there's one rule of thumb out there, maybe $1,000 as far as what's a good basis for emergency fund. Doesn't matter if it's $1,000 or $200 or $2,000. Anything you have saved when that emergency happens is money that you don't have to come up with some other way, whether it's borrowing it, putting it on a credit card, those type things. So think in terms of savings as building up some reserves for a rainy day. That's one purpose for the short-term savings. But the other one could be towards a goal. Maybe the family's planning a vacation. Maybe you're planning on buying a new car and want to have a down payment. Maybe you're thinking about buying a house. So again, some of those could be a horizon of 2 or 3 years from now, but still in the big scheme of life, those are short term. So savings, and really when I say pay yourself first, savings right there at the top of the list, giving your money a purpose, and part of the purpose could be saving for unforeseen expenses, but the other is saving for a specific purpose down the road. Next, investing, and this is growing your money. So investing could be long-term savings. Let's think of it that way. So that could be an IRA, that could be a 401k. It could be just maybe you're investing money in a mutual fund or an exchange-traded fund or in the stock market. Those are all ways that you've set your money aside to grow for a longer-term purpose. It could even be a certificate of deposit. A certificate of deposit is a time deposit, so it could be for 6 months or 5 years. But again, you're setting aside that money for a future purpose with the intent of giving it a chance to grow. And if you're watching this or listening to this and you're in your early 20s, I can't stress how important it is to start participating at some level in a retirement plan. You would be so surprised at how much money grows over that time. And you don't have to put it in risky investments or anything like that. You can just put it in anything that's earning a positive interest rate and growing for you over time. Of course, if it's in the stock market, you're going to have ebbs and flows. It's going to go up and down some. If you have it in insured bank or credit union accounts, you may not earn as much interest, but the principal is going to be protected up to a certain amount. But just any of that you've got a job for, this is my retirement money, or this is my retirement home money, or travel money, or whatever you have envisioned for yourself later in life. So again, saving and investing, they're both forms of setting aside money for the future. It's just that saving is more liquid, that you could grab sooner rather than later if you need it, but investing is a longer-term investment with the purpose many years down the road. And then last but not least is giving, sharing the wealth. And this could be something for a religious cause or for a charitable cause. But folks find a lot of joy in giving, and that's something that I think people also think of, well, I'll give what's left. I'll save what's left, I'll invest what's left, but oftentimes there's nothing left after you get past the spending phase. And something else I'll point out in giving is that so at different points of our life, it's hard to necessarily give monetarily. There's a lot of other ways to give, such as your time. There's a lot of organizations that they need volunteers that can dedicate their brain power, or if they're good with a skill with their hands. There's other ways to give than just writing a check. So just keep that in mind, that if giving is tight on the money side, there's other ways to give and really make a positive contribution to those causes. So let's do a quick review here. So I mentioned that the 4 categories was spend, save, invest, and give. But if we were really ordering those in the proper order, spend is number 4. Save, invest, and give, I'll leave that to you as far as how you want to order those, just as long as you're doing all 3 of those. And so again, think about that pizza slice. If you want to set those aside and say, okay, I've got 8 slices of pizza in this box, figure out how many of those slices are going into the proverbial invest, saving, and giving buckets first, and what's left is how you spend, as a good analogy of how you're going to do that. Now, in real life, if you want to do this a different way, of course, you can use a spreadsheet and track your expenses and put it into a category. You can literally use cash and use envelopes, and if you have $100, allocate that money, and here's my spend money, here's my save money, here's my invest money, here's my give money, and do it that way. But there's a lot of ways that you can do this to really give your money a purpose, give your money a job, and let it work for you. That's the biggest problem with folks that we work with that are having financial difficulties, is that they don't know where their money is going. And that is the first step. A lot of folks have enough money to work with, but they don't know where it's going, and then when they lose control of that spending part, reining that in is really the first step to that financial freedom of how you can make the money work for you. So budget your money with paying yourself first. That's your mindset for future financial stability. And if you prioritize the saving, the spending wisely, the investing, and the giving, you'll have control over your money and the motivation to achieve your goals. So just keep that in mind. And the beauty of this is, it doesn't matter if you're 20, or it doesn't matter if you're 60, or if you're 80, anything in between. These concepts apply for all stages of life. It's never too late to start. You can take control of your finances, and you can let it work for you so you can realize all of your financial dreams. Thank you for listening today. Again, this is Dion Williams with Piedmont Advantage Credit Union. Headlines in fine print. We'll look forward to talking with you on another episode soon. Thank you.